Top 10 Most Evil People in History. Throughout the centuries, some of the evilest people in history have existed on Earth. These men and women are behind some of the most harrowing and bone-chilling crimes ever committed. 1. Adolf Hitler. The German dictator was responsible for the deaths of over 6 million Jews and other minorities during the Holocaust. This alone puts him at the top of the most evil people in history. The leader of the Nazi Party, Adolf Hitler, was evil to the core. The Führer of Nazi Germany quickly rose to power during the 1930s. He led with a combination of fear and anti-Semitism policies that resonated with Germans after the loss of World War I. Once in total control, Hitler initiated World War II when he invaded Poland. For 6 years he and his armies ravaged Europe, with Adolf Hitler indirectly responsible for the deaths of over 50 million people. He was an evil person who died like a coward after committing suicide in his bunker on April 30, 1945. 2. Pol Pot. The sadistic leader of the Khmer Rouge, a Cambodian communist party, Pol Pot was another evil person responsible for the deaths of millions. He served as the General Secretary of the Communist Party of Kampuchea from 1963 to 1981. Wanting to install a one-party state, Pol Pot forced many of the population to move from the cities to farms where they would work for the government. Anyone who disobeyed was murdered, while many died from poor health while working on the farms. It is believed that between 1.5 and 2 million people were killed during his reign of terror. His supporters saw him as a visionary who stood up for Cambodia, while everyone else knows what he really was, a tyrannical dictator responsible for the deaths of millions. 3. Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein was another dictator who used his power to make himself very rich. Controlling the Iraqi government, Hussein ruled with an iron fist and was responsible for ordering the deaths of thousands. His army was involved in many bloody battles with neighbors Iran and Kuwait, while he used the country's large oil deposits to get in bed with many Western nations. Despite his involvement in the Iran-Iraq War and Gulf War, Hussein managed to stay in power. It wasn't until after September 11 when America, and particularly George W. Bush, took a much greater involvement in the issues plaguing the Middle East that Hussein's rule finally came to an end. America invaded Iraq under the pretense that Hussein was hiding weapon of mass destruction. Although no weapons were found, Hussein was captured and charged with crimes against humanity. He was executed by hanging on December 30, 2006. 4. Thomas de Torquemada. The first Grand Inquisitor, Thomas de Torquemada, was a religious zealot. Like many in Spain during the 14th century, he believed Catholicism was the one true religion and anyone who disagreed had to be punished. The Spanish Inquisition was established to help combat heresy but actually helped solidify those in power who ruled through fear and violence. De Torquemada was one of the nastiest members of the Spanish Inquisition who used brutal torture methods to get confessions from prisoners. He was also responsible for burning thousands of non-believers at the stake. 5. Joseph Stalin. The dictator governed the Soviet Union from 1922 until his death in 1953. His communist identity was influenced by Marxism-Leninism, resulting in his own idea known as Stalinism. Throughout his rule, millions died, particularly during the famine of 1932-33 thanks to his disruption of the economy. Stalin was also responsible for the Great Purge, where a further 1 million were imprisoned and around 700,000 executed. To this day Stalin's supporters revere him as a champion of the working class, looking past the ethnic cleansing and mass executions that happened during his time in power. 6. Vlad the Impaler. Vlad III is a national hero of Romania who forged a bloody path throughout Europe during the 14th century. The inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula, Vlad the Impaler was a murderous leader who held power on 3 different occasions between 1448 to 1462. He was a cruel and violent man who had no mercy for his enemies. It was believed his favorite method of execution was impalement. He committed many murderous acts that would be considered genocide by today's standards, yet his achievements have seen him regarded as one of the world's greatest leaders. 7. Mao Zedong. The leader of China's Communist Party for 27 years carved his own niche in Chinese history. Mao Zedong was responsible for the creation of Maoism and was the founding father of the People's Republic of China, PRC, which he ruled until his death. Throughout his reign, it was believed somewhere between 40 to 80 million people died due to famine, prison labor, persecution, and executions. Despite the crimes he committed, Mao Zedong was still regarded by many as a major reason for China's current position as a world power. He managed to unite the country as one after decades of civil war and helped push through important reforms that have had a long-lasting impact on the country. 8. Heinrich Himmler. It is no surprise that Heinrich Himmler is highlighted as one of the most evil people in the world. A leading member of the Nazi Party who controlled the SS, Germany's secret police, Himmler was the brainchild of both Germany's concentration and extermination camps. He had an interest in the occult and was believed to have had furniture made from the bones and skin of Jewish victims. Similar to Hitler, Himmler took his own life after being captured by British soldiers at the end of the war. 9. Charles Manson. Although he never actually killed anyone himself, Charles Manson was sentenced to life in prison for his part in the deaths of 7 people. The Manson family soon became a doomsday cult, with Manson believing a race war was coming. He encouraged his followers, who saw him as a Jesus-type figure, to murder those unworthy, leading to the deaths of 9 people over a 2-month period in late 1969. Of those murdered, the most famous was pregnant actor Sharon Tate. Manson was convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder and sentenced to life imprisonment. 10. Ayatollah Khomeini. He was responsible for the Iranian Revolution, with the majority of his rule occurring during the Iran-Iraq War. It was during this period that Khomeini showed his true colors. He ordered the execution of thousands of war and political prisoners Iran had captured. He also denounced America and referred to the country as the Great Satan. He was another divisive ruler who was loved by his followers but scorned by others.